Hey, wake up. It's Means Morning News. Just after 11 a.m. on the East Coast here in Washington, D.C. I'm the host, Sam Sachs. Good morning to everyone. It's the Friday show, the last show of September, and the last show before a government shutdown this weekend. Remember, kids, during a government shutdown, all crime is legal. All right, it's not. But seriously, you can smoke weed in national parks when the government's shut down. Okay, fine. You can't do that either. Well, you can. Just be discreet. I'm not a lawyer. And we begin with the National Labor Relations Board, which found on Thursday that Starbucks broke federal labor law last year when it denied pay raises and benefits to cafes that were unionized. Last August, in order to thwart a union drive, then Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz announced a slew of new perks for baristas. They included immediate wage increases, credit card tipping, and faster sick time accrual. But Schultz denied those benefits to the hundreds of cafes where workers successfully organized a union. He gave the bullshit excuse that he couldn't offer wage and benefit increases to union stores because they would have to be collectively bargained for instead. While at the same time, Starbucks refused to collectively bargain with them. Workers United immediately filed a complaint with the NLRB, and here was the decision handed down this week from Administrative Law Judge Mara Louise Anzalone. Quote, I find that by adopting a corporate-wide anti-union policy of explicitly conditioning eligibility for increased enhanced wages and benefits on its employees refraining from seeking union representation for the purposes of collective bargaining, respondent violated the act as alleged. I further find, with some noted exceptions, that respondent's various statements regarding the wage and benefit increases were unlawful. Cool, so does that mean Howard Schultz goes to prison now? Sadly, no. Instead, the judge ordered Starbucks to cease and desist from future policies that condition wage and benefit increases on baristas not joining a union, and to compensate the thousands of workers who were denied their raises and benefits because they worked at a union cafe. So basically, the company just has to do what it was supposed to do anyway. It's not getting fined or anything for breaking the law, which makes the risk Starbucks took in pursuing blatant illegal union busting totally worth it. It's probably why the company has racked up over 100 labor violations since the union campaign started 2 years ago. The only real punishment in this case is that Starbucks has to post a notice of employees' rights in all of its cafes, and new Starbucks CEO Laxman Narasimhan has to record a video of himself informing workers of the NLRB's notice and their labor rights. He should at least have to wear a clown nose while he does it. During the Republican debate this week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis reiterated his threat that if elected on day one, he would use the U.S. military to invade Mexico to go after the drug cartels. Take a look.
As Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing our people. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
DeSantis made the same threat in the first debate, and he wasn't the only one either. Fellow candidate Vivek Ramaswamy also said he would authorize military strikes against cartels in Mexico. In fact, invading Mexico is an increasingly popular idea within today's Republican Party, and President Trump reportedly wanted to bomb the cartels when he was in office, but had to be talked out of it. If elected again, he would be encouraged to do it this time around by members of his party, which prompted this line of questioning from Democratic Congressman Joaquin Castro during a Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on Thursday. He asked a Biden administration lawyer if there's currently any legal authority that could be used to justify military strikes against Mexico.
There's now open discussion about the use of force in Mexico to take on cartels, including airstrikes, the deployment of armed forces, and special forces operations. I'm alarmed that many are threatening to do so with or without the cooperation of the Mexican government, which could be considered an act of aggression and a violation of international law. I'm raising these issues and questions to get the administration on the record today, and I'm directing these questions to Ms. Crass. Is there any interpretation of the 2001 AUMF that would allow the use of force against cartels in Mexico?
We would not interpret the cartels in Mexico to be associated forces of al-Qaeda.
Are you aware of any executive branch opinion or memo that says the President's Article 2 power to repel sudden attacks would permit the use of force against cartels?
So the way that we have interpreted through the Justice Department, the Article 2 power is a two-pronged test. One, whether a use of force would serve an important national interest, and two, whether or not the use of force would be likely to rise in terms of both the use and the response and escalatory response to war in the constitutional sense. Just as you said, Congress has the power to declare war under the Constitution, and so that's the twofold test that would be applied.
But to the best of your understanding, any memo or policy that you've seen in the executive branch, is it your understanding today that that would include the cartels?
I've not seen anything that would indicate that, no.
So, to summarize, no legal authorities currently exist to go to war with Mexico. So, if Ron DeSantis did launch a war against Mexico, it would be highly illegal both domestically and internationally. That is, unless Republicans pass a new authorization for use of military force against Mexico, which they are trying to do. This is from The Intercept. Quote, 21 Republicans led by Reps Dan Crenshaw and Michael Waltz introduced legislation in January to authorize the use of military force against Mexican cartels. In March, Senator Lindsey Graham announced he would introduce legislation to set the stage for military force in Mexico. Yeah, these people are fucking nuts. Some political commentators predicted the demise of the neoconservative movement post the Iraq War debacle and the election of Donald Trump. But the truth is, the neocons never went anywhere. They've just changed their target for U.S. imperialism from the Middle East to Mexico. Oh, and China. They also want to go to war with China. This one is for the Wake and Bakers, or should I say the Wake and Bankers? It'll make sense in a moment. The Senate Banking Committee, for the first time, advanced legislation to benefit marijuana distribution. Republicans and Democrats on the panel supported the bill, known as the Secure and Fair Enforcement Regulation Banking Act, which removes federal prohibitions on banks doing business with pot shops. Currently, banks and financial firms can face federal prosecution by offering lending and deposit services to businesses that sell weed. It's an arrangement that stymies upstart marijuana entrepreneurs. But one thing the bill doesn't do is provide relief to folks who got busted selling marijuana before it was legalized, and folks who continue to face prosecution under the war on drugs. And that's why Senator Raphael Warnock opposed the bill in committee. Here were his comments.
And it seems to me that if this committee is to take seriously addressing our nation's broken cannabis laws and to seek true equity, then I submit that our only legislative priority cannot just be to make this Safer Banking Act safer to protect financial institutions serving this new industry. We must look to make whole the communities across the country that have been hollowed out and are being hollowed out right now in real time by the war on drugs. My fear is that if we pass this legislation, if we greenlight this new industry and the fees and the profits to be made off of it without helping those communities, we will just make the comfortable more comfortable.
Warnock offered an amendment that would sunset the bill's provisions unless it's proven that they've been effective in benefiting not just big banks, but also the communities that have been ravaged for decades by the war on drugs. His amendment, though, was defeated. Senator Chuck Schumer, a big supporter of the bill, said he plans to bring it to the floor of the Senate for a full vote. The bill also has a decent chance in the House, where Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who hails from California, a state with a lot of marijuana capitalists, has previously supported the bill. Now, it's obviously a good thing that the government is relaxing its prohibitions against marijuana. It just sucks that it's being done to primarily benefit the financial elite, to make sure that banks get their profits from this newly legalized industry. Instead of weed capitalism, I've got a better idea. State-owned marijuana distribution centers. Make them divisions of the U.S. Postal Service. What do you think of that, huh? I came up with it last night after I did a brain buster on the dab rig. NASA scientists in Houston are getting their first glimpse of soil and rock samples that are believed to be over 4.5 billion years old and that were scooped up from an asteroid 200 million miles away. This is the culmination of the space agency's OSIRIS-REx mission, which was launched way back in 2016. The space vessel then traveled hundreds of millions of miles before reaching the asteroid Bennu in 2018, where it then performed a touch-and-go maneuver, scooping up a chunk of the asteroid and then returning back to Earth with the sample. The return capsule finally made it back to Earth with the sample earlier this week, landing in the Utah desert, where it was then recovered by NASA. On Wednesday, the capsule's lid was opened for the first time, revealing some of the collected sample, described as dark powder and sand-sized particles. The main sample is in a portion of the capsule that has not been opened yet, and scientists are taking enormous care to not contaminate the rocks by conducting all research in a super sterilized laboratory created specifically for this mission. Scientists hope to glean insights about the formation and evolution of the solar system and what role asteroids like Bennu might have played in seeding Earth with the building blocks of life. The research will take years, but the public will get a chance to see the ancient space rocks for the first time next month. NASA is planning an unveiling on October 11th. What a time to be alive for guys and gals who like cool rocks. After the revolution, we'll be blasting rich dicks into space. But until then, this segment will suffice. Let's check out those nominations on social media. Thank you, Arona, for nominating all the goddamn landlords. You know, it's good to never have to worry each week if landlords will be nominated. Y'all are very reliable. Got a nomination here for Carol Lombardini, the head of the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which finally, after more than 140 days of striking, offered writers a fair contract. What took so long, Carol? And how long are you going to hold out before giving striking actors what they're owed too? Let's see. Here's a nomination for Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens, who continues to block Stop Cop City referendum efforts. The man is a police bootlicker. Former Obama advisor Stephen Ratner is nominated for melting down over Biden's decision to visit the UAW picket line. Ratner called it outrageous and unfair to the auto companies. Oh yeah? Who gives a shit? Shut up. Finally, here's a nomination for Senator Bob Menendez, or as he's referred to here, Bobby Goldbars Menendez. That's a strong one for obvious reasons. All the corruption and stuff. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. But in the end, this week's Rich Dick is... yeah, it's going to be Joe Manchin. Like Elon Musk, Joe Manchin has been a rich dick so many times that we have to raise the bar on his bad behavior so that he doesn't get the dishonors every single time. But credit where credit is due, Manchin really worked hard to achieve it this week. The coal baron senator from West Virginia is nominated for 3 reasons. First, and most dickish, He led the effort in the Senate to reimpose the dress code because he was so outraged that a colleague of his, Senator John Fetterman, might wear a hoodie and shorts in the chamber. Within 2 weeks of the Senate dress code getting relaxed, Manchin had a bill written, whipped support for it, got leadership to bring it to the floor, and got it passed. Again, all to ensure that Fetterman has to wear a dang suit in the Senate. Joe Manchin typically only moves that fast when it comes to approving new pipelines or making working class people poorer. But I guess he has other priorities too. The second reason Manchin is nominated is because he's joining with Republicans right now to deny abortion access to military veterans. He's blocking the confirmation of DOJ lawyer Anjali Chaturvedi to be the new general counsel at the Veteran Affairs Department. All because Manchin's upset with a new VA policy that offers abortion services to veterans in cases where their life or health is in danger and in cases of rape and incest. Manchin claimed that the new policy violates a 1992 law that prohibits the government from funding abortions, but the VA counters and says that the law doesn't forbid it from updating what it considers to be needed medical care to protect veterans. This was a statement from Manchin's office provided to Politico. Quote, Senator Manchin has made clear that the VA's current abortion policy is a blatant violation of federal law, and he continues to urge the administration to restore the common sense protections we've had in place for decades to ensure federal dollars cannot be used to fund abortions. I guess Manchin would just rather see veterans die of pregnancy complications instead. All right, the third reason Manchin is this week's Rich Dick is because he's one of the only remaining Democratic holdouts still supporting Bob Menendez, or Bobby Goldbars. Menendez addressed Senate Democrats on Thursday and said he would not resign, despite more than half the caucus calling on him to. Most lawmakers who attended the speech were unmoved by the remarks, but Manchin described Menendez's speech as impassioned and said he would continue to stick by him. From the Associated Press, quote, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin was one of the few senators who did comment after the meeting, telling reporters that he would still give Menendez the benefit of the doubt. Quote, the rule of law is for all of us, Manchin said. He is going to vigorously defend himself. Interesting. Compare and contrast Manchin's outrage with a colleague wearing shorts versus his charity toward a colleague who got arrested with hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash and gold bars stashed in his home and a lot of damning text messages. But I guess corrupt senators got to look out for each other in this town. Senator Joe Manchin, you're once again this week's Rich Dick. All right, friends, the show ends this morning with a sunrise from Minnesota. It was an anonymous submission captured from the banks of the Mississippi River in Minneapolis. Enjoy. Thanks to whoever sent that one in. That's the show. Thanks for watching, and thanks to the team behind the scenes. Please, if you haven't yet, sign up for Means TV and subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. One day, capitalism will fall. Until then, we'll be right here. See you next week.